Welcome to CECH Chats, a podcast from the University of Cincinnati's College of Education, Criminal Justice, Human Services, and Information Technology. In this podcast, we speak with faculty about their ongoing research, chat with students about the work they do in CECH, learn from staff members about their important roles in the college, and more. This episode of CECH Chats features a special fireside chat with Robert Hirsch, Chief of the Miami Township Police Department and a two-time alum of UC School of Criminal Justice. He holds an undergraduate degree and a master's degree from the school. But early on, Hirsch never even thought of becoming a police officer, instead studying to become an aeronautical engineer until the events of September 11, 2001 spurred him to quit school and join the Army. Upon honorable discharge from the military, he showed up to the police academy just a couple of days later. Hirsch was hired to the Miami Township Police Department in 2007, starting as a patrol officer and working up to field training officer, patrol supervisor, and operations commander. He was appointed as police chief in 2024. In this special episode of CECH Chats, Hirsch speaks with school director J.C. Barnes about his experience as a UC student. He also goes into detail about a very special study executed in partnership with the School of Criminal Justice aimed at reducing dangerous motorist speeds on a stretch of road next to a school for children with hearing impairments. Stay tuned to learn more about this fascinating and impactful work.
Well, thank you. I am J.C. Barnes, so I think I know everybody at that table because these are my master's students back here. So thank you all for coming and adjusting for tonight. I'm the school director at the School of Criminal Justice, and so what that means, I kind of oversee all the academic and business operations of the school. So we have an undergraduate program, of course. We have a master's program. We have masters both online and in person. And then we have a PhD program too. I see another distinguished alumni in the back as well. So good to see you. This session today is, I'm particularly excited about it. We've got one of our distinguished alumni who's gone on already to make a big impact in local community here. So we'll tell you all about that. I'll let Rob tell you a lot about his background, what he's doing now. But we'll get to the details of this. So I'll be a little light on the information right now. But when we were talking about this and putting it together with Scott, who you just met a second ago, I think partly Rob came to mind because he's one of my favorite stories to tell as like a success story for my program. But one, because he's an incredible guy and he's ascended to the top at the leadership position in his department. But also, the other reason I like to talk about Rob, and I'm excited to have this time with you all tonight, is that he thinks about crime and how to address crime problems in a way that to me epitomizes what our program tries to do, which is, we try to train our students to think about things like this as scientific problems, that think about it as something like you could research, and then what could you do to prevent it as well as to respond to it. And a couple years ago, and again, we'll get into the details, so I'll just be really light on them now, but a couple years ago, Rob had a really important issue, really important problem in his local community, and he contacted me with, there's one very obvious kind of traditional policing way to address this problem, and we'll talk about that, but Rob said, I can do that, but I also wonder if I could do this thing, and what it involved is actually we need to do a research study to make that thing happen. So it was this really unique way of approaching a crime problem. It was it actually is a research problem, and in doing the research, it would allow us to both solve the problem and then assess whether it worked. And I'll kind of go ahead and give you the punchline. Not only did it work, it was the most obvious thing that I've ever seen in my career, in 20 years of doing data analysis. I told him, I don't even need to do statistical analysis on this to tell you that it's this is so clear. So it's things like that. And then we were talking earlier about another issue that he's having right now that again, approaching it the same kind of way. What's the there's a traditional way of dealing with this as police, but is there another better way that might actually lead to better long-term outcomes? So this is the type of guy that you're going to hear from tonight. I'm privileged to call him a friend, and then of course, if you ever need him, he is the chief. So you can email him, and maybe being a fellow alumni, give you a little fair shake. So Rob, I'd like you to just say hello, introduce yourself.
Okay, well, thank you for that warm introduction, my friend. Appreciate that.
Give a hand to the chief.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know how to follow up that extremely warm introduction. I think you hit it all, but I'm Rob Hirsch. I am the police chief at Miami Township. There are many Miami Townships across the states, I gotta clarify. This Miami Township is over in Claremont County. It's nestled in between Milford and Loveland. So if you drive around the 275 loop, you'll hear things like Ward's Corner Roads, State Route 28, Milford Parkway. That is Miami Township in a nutshell. I have been in my current position for just under 18 months, but I've been a long-term member of the Miami Township Police Department almost 20 years. Never in a million years did I ever consider being a police officer. It took a large catalyst to make that happen. And what that was the September 11th terrorist attacks. I had just freshly graduated from high school earlier that May. I decided I was gonna be an aeronautical engineer. I was preparing myself for those studies. And then those terrorist attacks happened. So dropped out of college, earmuffs, JC, dropped out of college, and then immediately enlisted in the United States Army. Go Army, beat Navy. And then, obviously the terrorist attacks happened on September 11th. I was in basic training September 26th. That's how quickly this happened. Got all patriotic. I didn't care what I did. I know I wanted to go and serve my country and serve our nation. I wanted to go and, hold the people that were responsible for those acts and bring them to justice. But the military has this really unique way of finding out what you want to do and then giving you the exact opposite. And instead of having the opportunity to go fight for my country, they gave me a canine. It was an explosive detector dog. And in a post 9/11 world, we were in high demand. And they assigned me to travel and protect VIPs. So instead of going and fighting, I traveled around the world with this canine and protected the president of the United States, the vice president, and a whole bunch of other dignitaries. And I did that my entire enlistment. I decided I was going to leave military service after my enlistment was up, was honorably discharged, and I said, okay, well, now what am I going to do? So many of the things I had done in the military so easily transferred over to civilian law enforcement that I went and got out of the military on a Friday. That following Monday, I was in the police academy, and I decided, hey, I need a job when I go back to college. So I jumped in, I went to UC Claremont, go Bearcats, and I got my associate's degree there in criminal justice. I didn't stop there, came down the main campus, got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor over at Linder Center in business accounting, and then decided I'm having so much fun, let's progress on, let's get a master's degree because I like what I'm learning and I'm applying what I'm learning into the field. Right when I started the master's program, my department took notice of me. And I was in Dr. Haberman's class, my very first class, and they promoted me. I had to compete for it, but I was promoted to a first-line supervisor in that moment. And I think they recognized in that moment that I had some potential. And I'm very thankful to my leaders that were in the department at that time and recognizing that and giving me the opportunity. The Miami Township Police Department is a suburban agency. We are 50 sworn officers strong with 4 civilian support staff, and we serve a very large area, 33 square miles, almost 50,000 residents. So very large area, kind of densely populated for us. And per capita, if we look at how we're supposed to be staffed at Miami Township, the national average is 3.5 officers per 1,000 residents. We are far under that. So by that math, I think we should have 167 officers patrolling our streets. We don't need that because we employ some of the things that I've learned, but more importantly, my staff is learning. Many of my officers are in UC's program or in colleges elsewhere. We promote college education like you would not believe. We actually give them tuition reimbursement at our police department to make sure that, look, if we're going to have a professional police department, we need to make sure our employees are professionally trained. So we do that investment, and here I am. So I'm here today with JC to kind of walk you through my experience in the master's program. And I guess the best way of saying it is, he may agree, he may not agree on this one. It's important what you learn. But on the same hand, it's also important who you learn it with. And this institution, the University of Cincinnati, the master's program in the School of Criminal Justice, is top notch. We have a top tier program across the country right in our backyard here. And there is no reason to send an officer anywhere else. When they come to me and say, where should I study? It's always here. Why not? We have the top faculty, and every other department is sending their people here as well. So when you start talking about what you're learning and who you're learning it with, it's that networking piece. I remember my cohort when I was getting my master's degree, and I was surrounded by great people. Like the current chief of Miami Township. So, we're both chiefs at this point. A captain from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, a lieutenant over at Indian Hill Police Department, and so many more. So now I have these people as friends and colleagues that I can network with when I have a problem maybe that I don't know how to address. I have an immediate someone, hey, have you handled this problem? Have you seen this problem? Did we study this and I forgot this in the master's program? And we all talk and we're able to help each other out. So again, you have that good educational foundation, but you also have that support network.
Very good. So I think I've prepared a couple of questions that I was just going to ask Rob, kind of prompt him to talk about things that I know of that are interesting. But this is open, so you all just jump in as well, raise your hand, and we'll call on you. But I think first question, and to just get us kicked off.
Sure.
So you covered your background with
Yes.
the associates, bachelors, and masters. I happen to know you went even further than that. You've got a couple other credentials under your belt. Tell them the other
Sure.
programs you studied under, and then along the way, if you could maybe even highlight what was kind of some of the comparing and contrasting of like maybe just the master's program with some of these other advanced programs that you
Sure. So here at UC, and undergrad studies into what we do here in the graduate level, you're getting this really good academic foundation, and you're diving into, it's a research institute here, and you're finding out what has worked, and probably more importantly, what has not worked across the country. And then blending that with the other things I've done, such as a graduate of the Police Executive Leadership College. I've also attended the Northwestern University's School of Police Staff and Command. That's a long one, but I got it right there. And that's a 22-week program up in Chicago. And I've just recently been accepted into the Police Executive Research Forum's Senior Management Institute program that's up at Boston College. So I'm very excited to do that over the summer. And I'm also a certified law enforcement executive from the Ohio Law Enforcement Foundation. So 4 other academic programs, but those teach you really how to do policing. Those teach you how to lead an agency. Those teach you things like budgeting and staffing assignments, where this program here teaches you, here's problems, here's how to fix the problems. So blending those together, it's largely why I've been successful, but I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't say it's because of the great officers I have working for me that have obviously elevated me into my position here. They are the ones that are doing the heavy lifting and have kind of propelled me into this position. I'm very grateful for what they do on a daily basis.
Good. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's talk about our school beacons study.
I'm very excited to talk about this.
So I'll give just a little plug, but I just want to get him started. But what we'll talk about now was the study that I was a little cagey on earlier. But I want to emphasize up front, and then I'll emphasize it throughout, that this was all Rob's doing, and it was a massive success. So, he deserves all the credit for it. He had the idea. He actually came to me. I think probably he just needed a professor to sign off on it. But when I saw it, I thought not only is this a great idea, but he had already worked out all the science to it as well, the research design. So the students that are here that are in my class tonight, it's research methods. And so
Excellent.
He had developed a quasi-experimental design. He had identified the problem, the research question, the variables. So everything was there. He just needed someone to be able to help collect the data and analyze it. And he'd already figured out how the data were going to be collected. He just needed, we need someone that can analyze that kind of information, because we ended up getting about 500,000 data points, I think, out of that one study. And so it ended up being really big. But I guess first, so maybe if you want to tell them, like, what was the issue that you were seeing? And then, and I've never actually heard you explain this. Like, how did you get from the problem to then coming up with the research study?
Sure.
I'm thinking, I don't know that I've ever
Let's fill in that hole for you right here.
Yeah.
So Miami Township became very big, and nestled on the north side of Miami Township is a road called Branch Allegheny Pike. It is one of the most heavily traveled roads in Miami Township. And about 10 feet off the road sits a school. And this school is specifically for the deaf children, ages K through 2. And they, again, if you think we do good things here at the University of Cincinnati, they do great things there in teaching deaf students how to speak, how to read, how to talk, and they do amazing work. But
elementary school kids.
Yeah,
right?
K through 2. K through 2. So I saw this problem that we have deaf students who are sometimes walking across this busy roadway that people speed frequently through. It's a 40-mile-per-hour zone. What really started all this was we had a traffic fatality in that school zone. It didn't happen during school hours. It was a bicyclist during the overnight hours. A motorist couldn't see the bicyclist, ran him over, struck and killed him. It was very tragic, but it got me thinking, if this could happen here in this school zone, it could happen to one of those deaf children that honestly couldn't hear a car coming or have any defensive mechanism. So yes, there is an easy solution to this. We'll plop a officer right there in that school zone, and we'll write 1 billion tickets. And it will piss off a lot of people along the way. We'll we're not gonna generate money for us. We don't police for profit. We make it so we only get 1% of a traffic ticket's fines. So there's absolutely it's the cost of the actual ticket itself, the paper ticket. It just funds that, all right? So we don't get any money for it, but we can slow people down that way. And maybe, instead of traveling, through this school zone at 40 or 50 or even more, speed than that, maybe we slow them down to that 20-mile-per-hour zone, because there was, at that time, a singular posted sign on each side of the school zone that said, reduce your speed to 20 miles per hour, and that's it, during restricted hours.
And if I can pause you.
Yeah, please.
So just to give that context again, I think you're right, about 10 feet off the road. So
10 feet.
Probably is where that wall is.
Right there is the entrance to the school.
2-lane road, no shoulder, so it's a very narrow road. It's pretty much a straight shot through the school zone. And what Rob's saying, so a lot of schools in the area, you've gotten used to seeing the flashing lights to tell you like it's school time. So this school didn't have that.
And nor is it mandated.
Signs set up, and on one side, I think on what, I forget which side of the street it was, the sign was even obstructed by some branches from trees and things like. It would be very easy and very reasonable to have said, like, I didn't know I was in a school zone. So
absolutely. No, that's perfect, because you're absolutely right. Those 2 posted signs on each side of the school zone, believe it or not, that's all that is required by Ohio law right now. As long as they put that up on one side, that doesn't have to be flashing lights, no nothing. That's all they need. And that's what a lot of school districts can only afford, especially one that is a nonprofit that's putting all their money into teaching deaf children how to speak and hear. So what do? We said, well, instead of having that officer there and taking maybe, some high visibility, policing efforts, writing a lot of tickets, let's look at this a different way. If we know that there's 3 schools on each side of this that have those flashing lights, maybe motorists have just become so accustomed to seeing those lights, those flashing beacons, that they're not even realizing this is a school. So that's one aspect. So if we add lights, that could be good. But at the exact same time, can we improve those lights into something even better? And instead of just the dual flashing beacons at the front of the school zone, we also placed one at the very end. So not only will people have to reduce their speed entering the school zone, they will be reminded to keep their speed low all the way through the school zone And then when they reach that last flashing beacon, they can accelerate out. So I had this wild idea. I came to JC, a trusted friend, someone that I learned in the master's program from, statistics it was, in the modulars, I believe we were. When this, but I said, I would love to partner with you on this, and we can do a lot of good things. And I sent the email, I think at like 8:05 in the morning. By 8:10, he said, absolutely. Snap response, let's do this. So why don't you walk through how you did on your end?
So you get the idea of like what we were going for. We wanted to find a way to put these flashing lights in, and that you might think like, okay, that's not. It's interesting, it's innovative because it didn't have that before, but we didn't invent the beacons. But what I think there's two pieces to this that were really intriguing and really unique, and again, just different about, at the time, I think you were a lieutenant at that time.
I was.
So you've got somebody who, a lot of times still being spent, like you come on the road, out on the street, in this policing role. So not necessarily someone you would think, okay, let's put them in an office and let them think through maybe that's your job now.
Very much so.
So I thought, okay, this is interesting, but then the other issue was like, while Miami is in a nice area, and they're certainly, they've got a decent budget, they didn't have the money set aside to put these beacons in. And another unique thing about Ohio, as Rob said, like it's not required that they have it. So the state wasn't going to pay for it. And then the city also, since it's not required, they weren't going to pay for it, or they would have done it already, right? So you run into this really frustrating fiscal problem, like, well, where's the money going to come from for this? And that was another piece that really intrigued me about this, and the way Rob approached it is he said, well, okay, if we treat it as a research study, part of when you do a research project, you gotta fund the project, right? You have to buy whatever is necessary in order to conduct that study. So we were able to justify putting these beacons in so that we could then treat it as an quasi-experimental design to see before and after putting these in, were we able to actually reduce speeds in this location. But also more than that, we treated it as we had a couple of other schools in the area that he mentioned that already had these beacons. And so we used them as our research students we used them as a comparison group. So we have these other schools that are in very similar situation in the same area. Rob had purposely picked them because roughly the same amount of traffic flow, roughly the same speed limit, and to see, what compare and contrast across these different areas. And so maybe let's walk through now. So you had already done all the work to get quotes and things on like getting these beacons installed. We knew we could get it done.
The idea was there. I had JC as a partner lined up. Then from there, it was a matter of we got to get all the key players involved here, because I can say, hey, let's put up the school beacons. But that's not they're going to take them right down if I don't get the proper permits, if I don't have everything lined up, I have all the elected officials on board, what we're trying to do. So we got a meeting together, we got all the key players, all the way down to the person that was going to install the light bulb in these beacons was in the room with us. And we laid out the plan on how we're going to help these students and how we're not going to spend eternity conducting traffic enforcement there. Instead, we're going to solve this problem with, what was it, $20,000?
Yeah, I think it was even under that.
Yeah, $20,000 improvement. And we rapidly got everyone on the same page. And then we took a site visit, if you remember. We looked at it. I think we saw the students walking in that morning. And we really solidified, hey, this is the reason we're doing this. And then it was go time. We did, I believe it was in the, it was spring, but it was still, I guess, too cold at that point for them to get in there, start digging, whatever. So we had a little bit of time. So we threw out our speed measurement studies. We had road tubes at that time, and we were measuring every single car that went by. So we had some great pre-data that was going there, and about like pre-intervention type data. We did some at the exact schools down the road. So it looked really good. It was we knew we were going to have a lot of traffic. We knew we had a serious problem. In fact, it was more of a problem than I even realized when we had that data. And then it was time for the intervention. And they moved in, they got done very quickly, and we threw the road tubes back up after the intervention. And this is where you come in, I think. Talk about what happened.
So the road tubes, you've run over these on your car. I mean, you hear them, your wheels hit them. And what it does is it's tracking. It's remarkable, the data, and I'd be happy to show anyone who's interested in this. Over the course of just a couple of weeks, I think we had about 100,000 vehicles cross over those road tubes. So we were collecting data all day and night. So we didn't just restrict it to class hours. We did in the analysis, but we had it all the whole time. I think the speed limit was 45?
40 miles per hour.
Okay, and I remember thinking that we were seeing averages during non-school hours around like closer to 50.
I think it was like 53 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember thinking like, oh, that's bold. That's faster than I was. And then we were seeing a drop during school hours before putting the school beacons in, but they were still only dropping roughly to the speed limit. Like it was like just upper 30s.
Yeah, it was like 38, I think. Yeah. Well over that 20 mile per hour threshold.
So we're nowhere near where you'd want these numbers to be. So put the beacons in, put the road tubes back down, get another couple of weeks of data, another 100,000 cars go through. And this is the part for our master students especially, like I've never seen data so clean. So if you can imagine like a line graph where you got the average speed kind of up here going like this before the beacons are installed. Then we knew the beacons are installed on this day and the line just fell off the cliff. We saw an immediate, roughly 15 miles per hour speed drop on average during school times. So again, maybe not surprisingly that these beacons work, but I've never seen it so stark. And so what I've gone on to say about this study in other settings, and I'll tell you one in particular that kind of was surprised that Rob and I were presenting these results. But I think it's not at all an exaggeration to say that despite all the other things that Rob has done probably to save people's lives in his normal line of work as a police officer, he has without a doubt saved a kid's life at that school, a deaf kid's life from getting hit from a car. So first, I think that deserves a round of applause.
Well, partnership here. Back at you. So let me explain that. So in the world of traffic management, speed is a problem. It's a big problem. If you're going fast and you make a mistake, you can't really recover from that. And what would have been maybe if you're going the speed limit, an injury crash turns into a fatality. And if we can reduce that speed just a little bit, then that maybe accident that would have been resulting in an injury becomes only property damage. And if we can reduce even further, what would have been just property damage is just, it's a little fender bender, a little scuff, and they drive on. So when we're able to reduce speed so dramatically, that's where we say we're saving lives. So
then the last piece on this, and then we'll open it back up for any questions that you all might have about that study or anything else at all. But the part that we didn't tell you yet is another thing to be proud of as a Bearcat is that the study was actually funded by UC, entirely internal funds at UC. It was this unique research project internal grant that they put a proposal out, an RFP out every year for. And it's for things like this with like community partnerships. But I think, I don't know of any other university, even among our peers, of other programs in criminal justice that do that kind of thing. And I think that's, again, the power of a program like this, but also of a university. And so we were incredibly proud of that. And we ended up having this opportunity to meet and present the results of this study to the UC president and provost, the two top people at the university, and the board of trustees. Mm-hmm. There are a couple members of the board of trustees were there. So Rob and I put on our suits. I think you still had your gun.
I had my uniform, yeah, it was fine.
And we went up to the president's office and we presented on it. And we were really proud of it. We kind of went through it like we did just now. And at the end of it, President Pinto, who's still president here today, He said, do you remember what he said?
Yeah, well, he said, I'm familiar with this school zone. I live close by it. I drive by it, and I was wondering who funded that, and now I know.
Yeah. So not only did that we helped the local community, but even the president's like, oh yeah, I live right down the road. That really worked out.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of circular, really nice kind of bow put on that project.
And then beyond that, we shared the results. Now, obviously, for those guys in the research methods back there, what you're doing, you know that one study really doesn't amount to a lot. Okay, it's got to be replicated over and over and over again. But I felt so confident on the results that we had, I started sharing that with engineers' offices from state and local, and the Ohio Department of Transportation liked what we did so much that they started mandating that in their roadways that are under control. So many of them, if you drive around, Hamilton, Claremont, Warren, Brown, you're going to see in these counties the triple beacons along state routes, which is, I think, phenomenal.
Yeah, so making changes at the state level too. So what questions have you come up with so far?
Did you guys conduct any testing in the following weeks after to see if it was just a drop-off, like a new introduction effect, or if it stayed consistently low?
Yeah,
We did.
we are let it run. Do you remember?
Well, we did 3 samples. So the pre-intervention, which was great because it showed how bad the problem was. We saw it immediately after, but of course that was subjected to, I think, this term called seasonality, if I have that right.
Yeah, that's right.
And because we did it immediately after, and it was the fall, I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
It was like in April, and then it was maybe in October. And so we're like, well, let's go back and we'll do it again in April, and we did it again, and we had the same results. So it's really good.
Yeah, and that, what was that, maybe 2022 or so?
I would think either 21 or 22. Yeah.
Okay, so it would actually be interesting to go back now, after a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the literature on whether there is, an immediacy effect. But at least my own anecdotal experience, those flashing lights work for me every time. Yeah. So good question.
Anything else on that?
What other questions come up? Yeah, Joe.
For the period of intervention, did you see any reduction or increase on citations for speeding in that zone or within
Very good. So being in the position I was the operations commander. So all of road patrol, everybody that's out there responding to 911 calls, everyone that's out there that's responding to traffic crashes, or even the people that are out there writing traffic tickets, report to me. So I told them that's a no-fly zone. You are not to conduct any type of enforcement. I'm supposed to be there during these hours. So we eliminated that right off the rip.
Yeah, so this is a great question, and again, something that Rob had thought of ahead of time. So our master students know this would be a confounder or an alternative explanation. So had he also put an officer in the area at the same time, or even increased that appearance or the police presence, we might have seen speeds come down, but not because of the beacons. It could have been because of the officer. And so when he sent me the proposal early on, he had already thought of it. It's like, okay, we're going to remove all possible confounders, at least the ones that we have control of. And I thought, that was probably why you got the snap response. Right? He's already got everything. He doesn't even need me, so I'll let my name to it because this is going to work. Yeah, good questions so far. What else? Anything else?
So obviously, I know you all would get the grant. Was that a tough process on your all's part? Did the university really help you all do that?
Oh, the university was fantastic.
Absolutely.
That my experience was.
Yeah, we submitted the application to them. It took a little bit of time. Obviously, we submitted really early because I think they announced it. I reached out to him and I was like, and then the window had to close for everybody to submit. But we heard quickly back that yes, we've been selected and we're ready to roll.
Yeah, and so, it was just a few weeks, which sometimes with big grants, it can take a year just from time that you're notified to when you can actually get started. So we were able to, within that same academic year, say we're able to do this and actually get it done. Another reason though, because as you can tell, obviously he was so well organized, and I think we were notified that we got the grant, and it was within maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks at the most, that he had everyone. And he's not lying, even down to the guy that was going to screw the bulbs in was in the room getting this thing organized. And it just took that one meeting, and then we were off.
We were running.
So, but yes, the university moved very fast and gave us a lot of freedom to get it done. Yeah. Good questions.
Yes, sir.
Were you able to talk with like the elementary school teachers and administrators to get their and maybe anecdotal evidence about like before and after you did this experiment, what they think about it?
Yes. Yeah. So before I ever pitched this idea to JC, I went there and I said, we have a problem. And everyone was in, unified agreement. Yes, we do have a problem. How are you going to solve it? Then, it's a problem. We know it's a problem. How are you going to solve it? So I said, here's my idea. So they were very supportive of that idea. And when all was said and done, we actually had the executive director of the facility who recorded a message with all of our students, if you remember this, surrounding her. And again, these are deaf students who, in all rights, should have no ability to talk, but because of the good work they're doing there, they are able to say thank you, University of Cincinnati, that we presented to the Board of Trustees, the president and whatnot.
And I remember you telling me that they were saying
It's hugely
before when the
thankful.
data were in there, it's working. We can tell, like just from watching the cars creep by instead of flying by.
And it's so problematic there because they have a small facility and largely they go and park across the street. So a lot of students have to walk across this busy roadway, no crosswalk, no nothing. So they were very helpful, or thankful that we slowed everybody down.
Any other questions about that study? And also keep in mind we've had someone who's gone through the master's program. So this is partly, we've got some master's students here, but also kind of a recruiting event for some folks who are interested in the program. So if any of you all have questions about what the experience was like for a student.
Out of your experience, your master's, I'm not a local here, so what was your biggest positive takeaway from the master's program, do you think?
Well, there was a shock factor. The very first semester, you're an undergrad and you kind of got this down and you're thinking, hey, this isn't so bad. I'll continue on and get a master's. And the level of coursework between the two different programs is unbelievable. So that was a shock factor. But going through there and having such good mentors like JC and Sandra Browning, Dr. Browning is another one of my favorites. Who've always been there, who always helped guide me, mentor me along the way, give me some great advice. So having the faculty actually care about their students, not only while they're a student, but then beyond, and remember my name when I reached out to them. It was, 4 years after I had graduated from the master's program, and he still remembered me and said, absolutely, let's do this. That says a lot right there. And there's a reason that they're one of the top tier programs in the country. And I think it's because of the faculty. Fire away.
Yes, I'm somewhat unrelated, but what kind of differences do you see in officers before they've gone through an undergrad education and after, conduct, thought process?
I love it. Before you answer, I was going to prompt a similar question. So kind of that same bucket, because I'm on record for saying, and this is true, so I'll say it again now, so I mentioned we've got undergraduate, master's, and PhD. And I think if you were to look at maybe marketing material, you might get the impression that the PhD program is what kind of drives everything here. And it is really important. We're really proud of it. It's a top 5 program in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. But I think when I sit down, at night and think about the work that we do as faculty here, I'm most proud of the master's program. And the reason is because I can already anticipate what his answer is going to be, but because when we think about what benefit is an education for a practical applied field like criminal justice, to me it's like this. We're producing that. Now Rob was going to be great no matter what. He didn't need us to be great as an officer. Like you'd want him in your community anyways. But what I think hopefully we were able to do is give him the language, give him some, spark some ideas, give him the ability to think about these problems a little differently that he wouldn't have had he not gone through a program like this. So I've totally biased your answer there, but yeah, that's how I think about it.
Well, I echo that. So right now I have an officer that's in the master's program. He's on the online version. I went, in the actual brick and mortar building here, but he's in it. And every semester I check in and say, hey, what are you studying now? And right now he's in Dr. Haberman's crime mapping course. I said, perfect. this is great because I have all this crime mapping data that we have right now that having been and studied under Dr. Howard, I know what he's about to learn. I said, here's the raw data. Go see what you can do with it. See what you can produce with it. And he's doing great things. I mean, doing some heat mapping, it looks like, on some different crime trends. Now we have a very low crime rate in Miami Township. In fact, we're the safest community in the state of Ohio based on our population, which is fantastic, and I love that. And I think that gives us opportunities to try to look at these problems on a greater scale and say, okay, yeah, we could go out there and maybe we could solve this through enforcement action, but it's gonna leave probably a bitter taste in some people's mouths. Maybe we can find a better way of doing it and turn maybe what will be a negative, solution into maybe a very positive solution and get broad support for it from the community. So I was, right before we walked in here, many of you I think have taken a criminology course at some point in your studies, and you know that there are different causes of crime. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. One of those could be some sort of like financial strain, right? And beyond that, and we know there's a lot of food insecurity that is going around in our region right now. So our police department is located really centrally within Miami Township. So applying everything that I've learned and understanding, having that good academic foundation, we were seeing kind of a spike in shoplifting offenses at some of our local retailers and people that really normally wouldn't be committing crimes. So we turn around and say, well, how can we address this? Yes, we can go there, we can respond and do this, but it's not solving the problem. So we said, well, why don't we just create a modest food pantry in the lobby of our police department? If people are stealing food and running out with armfuls of groceries, let's just get the community behind us. We'll put whatever they need in our lobby. We have a great community, a very supportive community. We know we can get all this support behind this idea. We did it, and our shoplifting offenses, went up here, and they just absolutely dropped. And we partnered with a local nonprofit who has kind of taken now over and is stocking our shelves. So anyone that's in financial ruin or financial strain and need to provide a meal for their family, they can come into our police department. I'm a big fan of charity, and you have to be very bold to steal from the lobby of a police department. So we have all those layers of security. They come in, they take what they need. Many people come in there and just leave what they don't need, and it's supporting itself, and it's fantastic.
And you said the lobby's open
24/7, and because of where we're located, we have a lot of apartment complexes near our police department, and it's pockets of poverty. Overall, a very affluent community, but there are pockets, and most of those pockets center on our police department. So people that may not have transportation to go to somewhere, a food bank or whatever, they can easily walk to our police department, get what they need. There's bags. I mean, people have thought of everything now. There's hygiene items in there now for everybody. So they're able to get those things and just walk back, and like it never even happened.
Amazing. So I know we've still got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Chief Hirsch is on a really tight schedule, so I want to be cognizant. We're at 4:45. So and I think you've got to get out right at
5. So
yeah. So I don't know if Scott, if there was any specific question you were hoping that we would get to and ask. Okay. Otherwise, we'll kind of keep it open. And if anybody's got any other questions, we still have a little time.
You got 3 buckets to pick from. You can talk about the military, policing, UC. Let's go. What do you have?
I had a question. What was the transition like for you when you left the military to civilian?
So a lot of people in the military had it way worse than I did. Again, I was having every expectation I was going to sleep in the mud, go fight for my country. Instead, I was sleeping in 4- and 5-star hotels. So it was very easy transition for me to leave that and return to my more modest lifestyle here. So it was pretty easy. And then I knew immediately that I wanted to get back into college. And, again, it's not learning everything, getting the academic foundation is huge, but it's also who you learn it from and the people that you're learning it with. And I knew UC was for me.
This is, in your master's, what course you found the most difficult, in order to achieve it? What strategies did you use to get through it and be successful?
Boy, I hate to say this right now.
Go ahead.
I hate to say this right now. So for those students in the back of the room, research methods in the master's program was my Achilles heel. And I would have loved to have studied from somebody like JC. I had Dr. Manchek. Yes. So I guess technically she's my technical boss, I guess, since I also teach here at UC now.
Yeah.
In the undergrad program. But she was very difficult. She was very hard, but I learned the most probably in that entire course I did, elsewhere. So because she was holding me accountable to my studies, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of us had a lot of things to say about Dr. Manchek after that.
That's great. So I love this question, and so I was going to ask a follow-up, which was, maybe which class did you find, or so far have you found maybe least applicable to your day-to-day work, and then the reverse, which one's maybe the most applicable? And then while he's thinking, he kind of dropped it casually there, but what we do when we have students like Rob come through, as long as they have a master's, they can teach at the undergraduate level. So we try to tap people like Rob to come back and serve as professors for us and teach some of our undergraduate classes. And you've been going a couple semesters now.
Yeah, I'm going to apply for a pay bump here from you here soon enough. This keeps up. But no, I think all of them have applicability. I truly do. As long as you're applying what you learned, there's no such thing as bad knowledge. If you're a lifelong learner, you go to school and then you want to use what you learn, all is good. But I really, and it's like most things in life, when you connect to a faculty member and have that good experience, you learn more, it's more enjoyable. Just like you pick up a book, and if you don't like what you're reading, it's going to be painful. But if you pick up a book that you're enjoying, that you like it, you're going to read through that in no time at all. So I will say this, even how hard Dr. Manchek was on my cohort, we still enjoyed it. And there wasn't a faculty member that we did not enjoy.
Any other questions?
Good.
If you have the funding, are there any similar projects that you can tackle now?
Oh, there is a long laundry list of projects that I would tackle. I have been advocating for additional funding too. There's so many more schools that need these flashing beacons throughout only my township, because the state routes are well covered. They've done those, but some of the more local and county level roads, they don't have them. So it would be a great opportunity to replicate that study, show how that works. But beyond that, I think there are so many interesting possibilities with the advent of technology coming forward. So many police departments are trying to stand up these real-time crime and information centers and seeing how that either reduces crime over time or maybe affects police and community relations in a way. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like Big Brother watching them, and more in a longitudinal way. Does that erode some of the trust that law enforcement has, or is it maybe bolster it because we're out there actually making these arrests in shorter time periods, and criminals that may have got through a crime spree before they get caught, maybe we're actually catching them much sooner, and maybe that promotes better relations. I don't know. So I think it's a really unique idea to study as more of these real-time crime information centers get stood up.
Another thing that we've worked on that we didn't have to go into it fully, but Rob's been a partner on some of the work that we do with virtual reality and trying to put officers in different situations, the viability of VR as a training tool for law enforcement, and all sorts of other situations. But we, again, another unique factor of being at a big research university like UC, we found, you mentioned Dr. Haberman a couple times. So Dr. Haberman and I have a collaboration on some virtual reality projects, and we found that just with, usually at the sophomore level in the School of IT, another school here in the college, once they hit that sophomore level, we find students in that program are already able to code up an entire VR world for us. So we've had the ability to kind of create these scenarios that are totally of our design and you can run all sorts of experiments in VR. So we've collaborated on some of that.
Yes, we have.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll just say thank you, Rob, and if you'll just please join me and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening to this episode of CECH Chats, a presentation of UC's College of Education, Criminal Justice, Human Services, and Information Technologies Marketing Department. CECH Chats is edited and produced by me, Rodney Wilson. To learn more about the college and its programs, visit us online at cech.uc.edu. While you're there, check out the CECH Headlines page for recent stories, past episodes of CECH Chats, and more. Until next time, thanks for joining us.